All right, people, we are back. Stream number 2 of the morning, and we have our next big Warner Brothers extravaganza. I know that doesn't mean as much given everything that's happening in the Hollywood ecosystem with Warner Brothers and Paramount and Netflix. We'll be covering all of that in our review today. But first off, I am joined by, once again, my longtime friend and longtime collaborator, Kristen, aka Miss Flamingo. Happy to have you back. Happy to have you back one-on-one. How have you been? I feel like it's been forever since we had you on. What was it?
We just did the top 10 movies for 2025.
I was getting that mixed up with the draft. I couldn't remember. I was starting to get my streams crossed there. I've done so many of these the last 2 months.
You're a busy man, Don. You got to keep up, and it's hard, and it's okay. But I'm happy to be here to talk about The Bride. So one of my most anticipated films for 2026. So.
The Bride. It feels like literally only yesterday that I was talking about Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein with Gal Balaban. Probably because it has only been 6 months since that movie came out. So it's been really close. I'm trying to remember, when was the last time that we had like a similar? No, I remember now. what it was. I am reminded of back in 2023 when Sofia Coppola, and I know this because this is a movie that you and I also released and also reviewed when we were covering New York Film Festival that year, when Sofia Coppola released oh my God, wow, I'm already drawing a blank. Fucking Elvis's wife, what's her name?
Priscilla.
Priscilla, thank you. Oh my God, major brain fart there. When Sofia Coppola released Priscilla only a year after Elvis, and that movie felt like it was like a direct criticism of Elvis, understandably so, but the problem was that movie was not criticizing the right parts of Elvis. That movie was criticizing Elvis's legacy when it should have just been criticizing the whole movie and it's the reason for its existence to begin with. This was not quite that. What I can say about this movie is that I appreciate that it is not trying to be, I would say, an open criticism of what Del Toro did for Frankenstein. Because I take it you saw it. I take it you enjoyed that movie.
I wasn't a fan of it. There were things in Frankenstein that I liked, and then there's stuff that I feel was very overhyped in that film. One of the, like, Jacob Elordi was the best performance in that entire movie, but is anybody in that movie award worthy? No, not at all. I was surprised that he was getting so much award season recognition, but then again, he transforms in that movie because of all the makeup. You don't see the cutie patootie Jacob Elordi. You see a disfigured makeup style Jacob Elordi.
I will say that, like, I was one of the people who drank the Kool-Aid. It helped. I saw Frankenstein in a theater. I saw it at the Paris Theater, and like Elordi's, like, when he comes on the screen and he like starts like acting and speaking, he takes over the whole movie.
Yeah, and it just shows that, like, he is the actor, like the homegrown now movie star, like like how we. Because we see people on TikTok and YouTube and everything, and they all get famous. He's like the last grown, Hollywood going through auditions and, eventually getting picked up. He's like the now definitive movie star that's actually starting from, acting and stuff.
His trajectory was obviously very, very fun to track, across, get his start in the Kissing Booth movies, and then obviously his trajectory across Euphoria, and then some of those early movies that he was doing coming out of Euphoria were questionable, to say the least. But he's been, I would say, ever since between having Saltburn and Priscilla and The Sweeties, a lesser known movie that came out that year with Simon Rex. He's definitely, I'd say, on the right path. And now, obviously, the Oscar, he got first Oscar nomination at 25. Oh, sorry, at 27, 28 years old is nothing to slouch at. But so that brings us into this movie, and so, but what's interesting is obviously this movie being released only 6 months after the Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein, which again was a very faithful, very loving adaptation of the Mary Shelley novel, while also kind of being a very interesting examination of fatherhood and what that means. Like, that movie really was trying to go for something like really deep and meaningful. This movie was definitely going for something. I don't know if it was deep. I don't know if it was meaningful, but it's weird because this is and I feel like we'd mostly left these kinds of reviews in the past. But this is a movie that I feel like we have to track the production history of it, and especially given everything that's happened with Warner Brothers, because I think it's crucial and essential to understanding the movie that we got, because this is the first movie that I would say, and so far, like, an otherwise unimpeachable year, it's kind of ironic that how in a year where it truly feels like the world is falling apart, even more so than anything else, the fact that we have an active U.S. president who's waging wars to cover up his own heinous, despicable actions. It's absolutely insane. I didn't think we would actually get this in my lifetime, but here we are. We're officially reliving like the 70s and the late 90s and the 2000s. I mean, this is nothing new if you've ever studied history, but like the fact that we are here at this point in history reliving this now as adults is insane.
The world's in a messy spot. And at least we have movies to see to get away from everything.
Well, that's the irony, is the fact that, wow, the movies have been, I really haven't had any problems with any of the movies so far this year. I mean, if we're going down the list, and I'm doing this with you because, again, I don't get the chance to do this, starting in January with Send Help, The Moment, and 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, all for the most part really exciting, really awesome, really interesting, and different kinds of movies. And then even the R.I.P., the Matt Damon, Ben Affleck movie that went right to Netflix had a little bit of a moment. Then you get into February, you've got the animated Goat movie, Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie gets
I was just going to say that.
Yep. After that got a big moment coming out of TIFF. And then, who knew, the first major movie event of the year, which again, one could argue was always hyped up this way. Also, sorry, Jacob Elordi, Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights, which, oh man, I am still trying to reckon with my feelings on that movie because I was both so entertained and so what the fuck am I watching? Like the whole second half when Elordi comes back as Heathcliff and he's basically like Nate Jacobs, but in Wuthering Heights, and it's just, and knowing the reason
he looks like. It was funny because I saw this with a couple of friends of mine, and we all agreed that Jacob Elordi looked like a pirate, especially knowing the gold tooth and the gold earring. Kind of looked like Jack Sparrow's distant cousin, if they were both around the same time.
I love how too that Emerald Fennell's motivation for making the movie had nothing to do with a love for Emily Bronte or a need to do the next big adaptation. No, it was the fact that while they were filming Saltburn, she could not look at Jacob Elordi without envisioning Heathcliff.
Yeah, which is crazy. And then my mind also wrapping around that movie was the fact that they casted what's her face, the girl who played Jacob Elordi's sister.
Oh, Alison Oliver. Yes.
And then all of a sudden they're making out and doing all sorts of weird stuff, and I'm just like, guys, you just played siblings. No. I can't wrap my head around this.
First off, we know that Hollywood's not new to that because
I know
they did the same thing a decade ago with Aaron Taylor Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen, where they were husband and wife in Godzilla, and then a year later they were playing siblings.
Yes, and I was talking about that to my friends because I don't remember which of my friend groups saw Saltburn. I was like, guys, they just played siblings, and now that they're doing all sorts of weird stuff here, we all agreed. We were like, yeah, there was probably some weird conversations on set for that movie.
Another movie that I am still reckoning with my feelings on, because that's another movie where, again, certain parts of that movie just so entertained me, unlike any movie that I saw that year, and then other parts I was just like, guys, what are we doing here?
That's the same way I felt about Heights too. So
I'm sad. It makes me sad because I loved Promising Young Woman so much.
Me too. That was my favorite movie.
Emerald Fennell shows such promise as a director, and the fact that she was on The Crown the same year, and then just her movies that she's done since, I'm just like, no. And it is an interesting kind of little companion piece because, again, they're both Warner with Wuthering Heights and this movie, The Bride. Both Warner Brothers movies, both directed by prominent female actors turned directors, both slightly controversial for their adaptations and kind of liberties that they take with the subject matter. It is kind of weird, actually, how an active conversation these two films are. I didn't even realize that until now. But, so we should probably get into The Bride. So Maggie Gyllenhaal, well-known actor, sibling, famously twin sibling with Jake Gyllenhaal, who is in this movie. Made her directorial debut during COVID with The Lost Daughter, which is a movie that a couple people pretended that they liked. I fell asleep during, and ultimately came to it was oh, this is not a movie for me.
Yeah.
Did you like The Lost Daughter?
Not 100%, because it's funny how I got to see The Lost Daughter because I was working at a film festival at the time, and they brought Maggie Gyllenhaal for a discussion with Stephen Colbert, and they were showing the movie. So I saw Maggie Gyllenhaal in my presence, and I was kind of going in and out of the theater, listening to what she was saying, and I was like, maybe I need to check out this book and this movie. So I got the book, read the book, and I was like, what an interesting book to adapt here, because it was in my opinion, it was just okay. So, and then I got tickets to see a conversation with Maggie Gyllenhaal and Dakota Johnson and some people who worked on the film. I went to the screening, and my husband, my now husband, went with me, and we both were like, we were bored, but and I was bored too. I was ready to fall asleep, and then I rewatched it, and I was like, yeah, this is still not as good. Did I enjoy Maggie Gyllenhaal talking about the piece? Yeah, because obviously she saw some form of art in it, but I just thought, nothing of it. Even thinking about it like years from later from now, what was that, 2022 when that came out? 2021. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Still. Yeah, because it was right to Netflix drop.
Yeah, right to Netflix drop. They did. I remember having like a small window release, but I don't think anybody was interested in seeing it until Netflix.
Trust me, nobody was going out of their way to watch that in the theater.
No. But I did. But at least I got to see it for free. But I didn't like it. But do you know what? Knowing the hype, I feel like, for The Bride and seeing the interpretation she was going to take on it, and knowing this was going to be competing with Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein is what made me interested, and due to the cast of this movie.
Right. I mean, the cast itself is great. I mean, aside from the two leads, Buckley, again, there's a reason why this was positioned where it was positioned, considering that she's going to win an Oscar in a week for Hamnet, which, again, is a movie. I love when people be like, oh, Buckley's been locked up for a while. I'm like, no, guys, you don't get it. Buckley's been locked up since the movie premiered at TIFF. Like, as soon as the movie was seen by people at a film festival, she won the Oscar.
She's going to win it. She's going to win it.
Like, that's the only thing that there was it's ironic that in a year where we're having probably one of the most competitive Oscars that we've had so far this decade, and you and me are going to talk about our thoughts on this coming Academy Awards at the end of this episode, because I want to get your thoughts on that. That is the one category that there has been like little to no competition, and pretty much
it's just only been mostly between her and Rose. But at this point, Buckley was dominating this entire award season.
That ended after the Golden Globes.
Yeah, and she's gonna win it, and everyone's like, "Oh, she's gonna lose her chances now because the stuff she said about the cat." The voting's been closed.
This ain't Norbit, and the voting's closed. Like the
voting's closed. Even if she made that comment, she's already gonna win it.
Yeah, no, this is not a Safdie situation like what happened with that article resurfacing. And this is not Timmy shooting himself, not even in the foot. Timmy shooting himself in the head with that McConaughey interview. Which again, I like the interview, but man, that did not bode well when he made the
it didn't last well.
Saying that people don't care about ballet. I'm like, oh no, Timmy, why?
And noticing his whole family was like doing ballet, like his mom, his sister. Maybe wrong time to say that.
Not a good.
Not a good look.
No, not a great plan. To quote Tony Stark. But so like I said, Buckley and Bale already. You've got a great package. You have a supporting cast. You got again Jake Gyllenhaal, Annette Bening, Peter Sarsgaard, because he's contractually obligated to be in all of his wife Maggie Gyllenhaal's movies. Penelope Cruz, you got like an amazing cast. You've got John McGurrow and what's his name, who's in all of Ben Affleck's movies, playing two idiot dumb mobsters.
Yes.
You've got Zlatko Budik, who has been weirdly making a little bit of a comeback. He's famously the big heavyset Russian dude in 2012, and then he played the evil dictator of the Israel stand-in country in Superman, and then he was just recently the film director in Wonder Man. Like he's been making a little bit of a comeback. So he's in this movie. There's the big stacked cast, but I feel like we have to go into the production history of this movie because it is very important. And I'm sorry, but there's no other narrative that I will accept that makes sense in this movie. It's very, very obvious that given the structure and the subject matter of what this movie was, Warner Brothers knew obviously that Del Toro was making Frankenstein because Del Toro said that he was making that movie, I believe, back in 2023, right off the heels of Pinocchio. He announced that he was doing Frankenstein as his next movie, and originally that movie was going to star Andrew Garfield in the part of the monster. Then Garfield drops out to do After the Hunt. A big mistake if you ask me on his part.
I quoted that in my review. I was like, how could you drop from Guillermo del Toro's? But I'll give it to Jacob. He came back.
Again, give it to Jacob because, again, how many of these behind-the-scenes, last-minute casting replacements end up working in the movie's favor? Not only working in the movie's favor, but working out so well that, again, like, I'm sorry, if Andrew Garfield is in Frankenstein, I don't know if he gets an Oscar nomination for playing the monster.
And I think the movie would have kind of been different with with Andrew in the role, because they're both, I feel like they're both very two distinctive actors, but they're both very, very good what they do. But I don't think Andrew could have matched that level because I feel the way that, like, especially Jacob Elordi gets mad in those scenes. I cannot see Andrew Garfield's
Andrew has a more manic
channeling that.
energy. Yeah, he has a more
Yes.
manic energy when it comes to getting mad versus because Elordi is so well known for his stoicism. Not to mention the fact that I'm sorry, but Elordi is 7 feet fucking tall. Like I'm telling you, like I don't think I've seen the last time where and the need for an actor to be that tall has ever been more prevalent because like you need that menace and you need to be what's it called? You need to be like literally like terrified of this like giant thing. So anyway, so Warner Brothers knows that Guillermo del Toro is making this movie. And they also, again, have a movie that they are making off the back of another one of their previous successes, Joker Folie à Deux, which is a big musical. And again, a lot of people have been saying how similar this movie is to that. And I'm like, almost like this movie was greenlit off the back that they were banking on Joker 2 being a success. Then Joker 2 comes out. It's not a success, to say the least. In fact, quite the opposite. I still think that movie's a misunderstood masterpiece, but I'm fine. I'll stand alone in that rate. That's fine. So this movie gets shelved. Then again, David Zaslav, he's already planning on carving up Warner Brothers for parts. And again, what we have known that Zaslav has been planning on selling Warner Brothers since he took over back in 2022. And all the moves that he was making early on, it was very, very clear that he was carving Warner Brothers up to try and sell it. Then in, again, a move that nobody saw coming, he puts Pam Abdi and Mike DeLuca as the new heads of Warner Brothers, the film studio, and sets them up to fail because those first couple of movies that Warner Brothers put out, which again were not their fault in the beginning of last year. If you remember, Mickey 17, good movie, flopped at the box office. That god-awful Alto Saints movie where De Niro was playing dual mobsters, a movie that only happened because Zaslav is close friends with the writer of that movie, who's also the writer of Goodfellas, Nicholas Pileggi. Also, again, a massive flop. But then Pam and Mike pull out the unexpected and go on to allow Warner Brothers to have one of the best, both creative and financially, what's the word I'm looking for? Financially well-off years that Warner has ever had with Minecraft, Sinners, Conjuring Last Rites, Superman, Weapons, and One Battle After Another. Obviously, again, again, Warner Brothers being behind the two movies that are going head-to-head for Best Picture in a week. So nobody saw that one coming. Nevertheless, obviously, then it's announced at the end of last year, Warner Brothers is now officially being sold. Netflix and Paramount are bidding. Netflix wins temporarily, but Paramount won't back off. And now, obviously, we know that Warner Brothers is unfortunately going to Paramount, who, of course, is bringing back all of the canceled people that, were canceled for reasons. Yay!
Yeah, we got to see Max Landis, unfortunately, and I'm just not excited to see him.
Max Landis writing a G.I. Joe movie. Yeah, that's what I
gotta
wanted.
love it. Gotta love it.
Oh, man. But anyway, so obviously they bring this movie kind of back off the burner as a result of the massive success that they've been having. So like, they're having a lot of success with, creator, really auteur director driven projects. Coogler with Sinners, PTA with One Battle, Zach Kreger with Weapons, auteur driven kind of creative, big IP, big original IP projects. So they bring back The Bride out of, I guess, development hell. They start making it off the backs of the success. The test screenings are not going well for this movie. Almost all the test screenings are not going well. So we have this movie now in its final release form after all of that, with all that history, with all that context. And I will say it is important because I haven't seen a movie that was this affected by test screenings probably since Captain America Brave New World around this time last year. And unlike that movie, which was an absolute mess and barely functioned as a movie, I famously said that Brave New World is the 2016 Suicide Squad of the MCU, and I still stand by that statement. This movie, I would say, turned out pretty good. It still has a cohesive narrative. There's some jumbled stuff, especially in the second half. There's some narratives that are there's some narrative points that are introduced at the beginning that they kind of just drop, and kind of never touch on again. So I guess with kind of all of that preamble out of the way, what are your thoughts on The Bride?
Like I said, it was one of my most anticipated films of the year. I think I had hope for it. And I knew the minute I saw the trailer for The Bride, I was like, this is what Warner Brothers wanted from Joker 2. And I think they made that here. But does everything come together in the end? No. And I think I was kind of excited for that, knowing this is what I kind of wanted to see from Joker with all the pizzazz it was going for this movie. But the way this movie turns out, it's more theatrical than I thought.
Yes.
And I was like, Was I here for it? Yes, but there is a lot of stuff like what you mentioned in the second half that doesn't really connect. I feel like there's a lot of stuff here that doesn't fully come together as well, like the stuff going on with the mob, the stuff that's where the police, the law are after Frank and the bride or Ida, whatever you want to call her for the sake of this interview, Dom, you let me know. Because because Jessie Buckley plays
For
like
me, I'm like, it's just Jessie Buckley being the hottest that she has ever been in anything. And I am all here for it. But
okay.
we'll come back to that.
But because Jessie Buckley is like different characters here in the
Yes.
story, and however you want to address her name in this movie, okay. But I liked there's stuff in here that I liked that I think comes together really, really well. But there's stuff in here that does not come together. Like I mentioned, the law stuff, the mob, especially. I think the worst part is the mob. I think it works in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then I think if they left that alone, I think like just in the beginning, knowing she was just out, I think it would have been fine. I would have settled with that if it just focused on, the cops going after them, and then just Frank and the bride just living their Bonnie and Clyde story. I think it would have been fine.
Yeah, I again, it's the issue of, again, really, really promising start, really interesting, fascinating premise that they're setting up. The narrative device as well through which they're delivering it, because, again, Buckley is bouncing back and forth between both Buckley and Bale. Both of them are doing this, but it's explained why Buckley is doing it, because, again, she's the centerpiece of the movie, are constantly bouncing back and forth between different accents throughout the movie. And I guess I should get into this now. Basically, what's the opening scene of this movie is, Buckley playing one of several prostitutes who are being propositioned by these two men who work for, this super evil gangster out of Chicago, who Lupino, who is famously known for cutting women's tongues out so that they never speak. It's a, kind of a little bit of a over the top sort of a thing. And so Buckley's character, who at the beginning is a prostitute named Ida, ends up getting possessed by the spirit of Mary Shelley.
Mary Shelley, yeah.
Essentially. Which again, that's a cool narrative device, ultimately. It makes sense how somebody who wrote the original book about, I would say the first book about, a soul coming back from the dead, ends up, literally she herself possessing a woman's scorn. And again, setting up the, setting up the central theme of a woman's rage, contrasted again, interestingly, with the Frankenstein character portrayed by Christian Bale, or in this case, the Frankenstein's monster character, who is looking for love. You've got those two very interesting narrative points. Buckley's character is killed when she's thrown down a balcony. Frankenstein, or Frank as he's called in this, seeks out the help of Annette Bening's character, who is the mad scientist character, Dr. Cornelia Euphronius. He persuades her. They end up digging up Buckley's body. They bring her back to life. She's, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs at first when she's first woken up. And the two of them end up going on this kind of widespread Bonnie and Clyde-esque crazy adventure where they're constantly having to run for different places because Buckley ends up having a manic episode, ends up, starting some shit, beating people up. Bale ends up killing people because they're bullying her. They're going to nightclubs. They're going to movie theaters. Bale's character, Frank, also has this fascination, this love of silent films, or not silent films, of
musicals, like
musicals,
19.
yes.
Yeah,
like 1930s show tunes.
Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, which they actually mention in the movie.
Yes, exactly. And the fact that Jake Gyllenhaal is also playing the Fred Astaire stand-in, which is quite funny. There's a heartbreaking moment where they're at a gala when they run away to New York, and Bale ends up running into Gyllenhaal's character, and he is of course rejected by him in a very cliched move. And basically, what happens is that after a very, very interesting and creative and fun start, the second half of the movie, things just kind of start to fizzle. Like, I don't know what it is. It's not that the story's not there. It's just that, it feels like they have so much that they set up. And by virtue of the fact that they have to, move towards a narrative ending, it feels like they just don't know what to do with all those different storylines that they set up. And they kind of just leave them be.
And I would say that kind of happens for me, at least, after that big musical Lady Gaga number, because that scene is, let me tell you, worth the price of admission.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was, really good. I will say, worth to see it in IMAX. I saw this movie in IMAX, and I loved seeing that whole scene in IMAX. It looked great. It was fantastic. Everything, it was giving La La Land and giving all the musicals that I like. It was great. It was great. And it was also the Lady Gaga concert I wanted to see, but never got to because, of course, tickets are expensive.
Yeah.
Did I enjoy it? Yes, but you are right. It fizzles out towards the second act.
It really does. And as if to prove my point, I'm glad that you brought that sequence up in particular, because there's a point where when Frank starts dancing, and then obviously, the bride, Ida ends up, going with it. There's a point where they're almost like controlling people in terms of like making them dance through like some sort of like telekinesis, or like maybe some sort of like electrical like neuron energy that's caused because of the electricity that was used to bring them both back to life.
I think it was because of that, because of the light.
Right, exactly. But regardless of what the cause is, it's never explained. And then it's just, Peter Sarsgaard and Penelope Cruz show up because they're the cops that are pursuing them. They end up Buckley ends up holding everyone at gunpoint, and then she shoots a cop, but then they don't get shot, and then they end up getting away, and then it's never explained. They never come back to it ever again. And I'm just like, what? But that was an interesting plot point. Why did we focus on that?
And let me tell you something. Do you know what I thought when I was going into this movie? Like the way I thought, Peter Sarsgaard, he's after the bride, but
right.
he's like the nicer guy in the situation because he wants to make things right with her. I thought he was going to play the bad guy in this situation.
Right. And I thought he was going to be like a secret cop that was turning over the girls to the mob boss. Yes.
And I thought he was the one who pushed Jessie Buckley down the stairs, and I'm thinking, maybe that's a wife. Like I had questions in my mind, like that would kept me really intrigued to see the bride. I was like, oh my god, like imagine Peter Sarsgaard as the bad cop. He's the one who pushed her down the stairs. Maybe he was married and was having an affair. Like I had all these questions in my mind that I thought, this could have been really interesting, but not a fan. Like
so right. You're so right. Not even just that, but because that's exactly what I was thinking when I was watching the first half. And especially given kind of the twist, I guess you could say, that happens with this character. But again, I'm going to blame Maggie for this one because, because Maggie can never cast Peter as quote unquote a bad guy. Like I know that technically he's not a great guy, the character that he plays in her first film, The Lost Daughter. But like the way that ironically also the Buckley character in that movie is like in such like loving adoration of him, because again, it's another movie that's from her perspective. And in this instance as well, it's like she can't help herself, because you're right. I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a draft of the script, or like, again, the previous version of this movie before it got hacked to shreds after the test screenings, where that was the case, where he did turn out to be in league with the mobsters, and that the reason why every single girl that he tried to, supposedly use as an informant, he was actually turning over. Like, I'd like that makes so much more sense than what we end up getting, which is just that, he feels bad because he recognizes the bride as being the latest girl that he was trying to have inform on him for the mob boss.
With her. And he did sleep with her in the end. And I was like, okay, well, I think it would have been really, if he had some kind of menace to him, like he needed like a flaw. Like, besides the fact he was just going after her, it just seems like he was like a fan of her, kind of like the way Bale was fanning over, Jake Gyllenhaal's character. Like, it was like weird, and then in that sense. So, like,
big fanboy energy in this movie.
Yeah. And I think we could have made some significant improvements with his character, and then I think it would have been really interesting for Penelope Cruz to see like what he's been tracking, and then all of a sudden she's the one who has to turn him in the end, and then he, I just thought it was like strange. Like in that moment, he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna retire. I gave myself in." Like I don't even know if the word was retire. Like he let himself go.
Whatever the case is, like, I turned him in.
And then she just becomes the head detective, like the secretary. Like we needed more like escalation here. To like,
I'm not a fan of.
I was like, I wish I could get a job like that where it's just handed to me. I was like, that would have been great.
That whole sequence where they are just sitting down, and he is just, it's such a blaze case of, here, let me go and explain to you the plot of what's been happening. And I'm just like, oh god.
We act like we're understanding it. We're watching. We're not stupid. We're the audience. We're picking up on this.
It's not good. It's not good, to say the least. And the Penelope Cruz character also is another one where I'm just like, oh my god, like a part that should have so obviously been Juno Temple And I need to know what kind of caused that casting. It's not that she's bad in the movie, but she's so miscast and so out of place that she sticks out like a sore thumb every time she's on screen. And it's interesting because in a movie where you have a bunch of, for lack of a better word, simps that are like all like kind of fiending after like this one central female character, you know, because ultimately, again, like the fact that the Buckley character is, it's fascinating that this movie is directed by a woman. The fact that Buckley is kind of the source of, you know, fascination and awe of two characters in this movie, you know, the Christian Bale Frankenstein character and the Peter Sarsgaard detective character. And then you have Penelope Cruz as the character who, again, also she has this like she's introduced as having this very like, you know, fun, very good work relationship back and forth. Like they with Peter Sarsgaard, like they are very good partners. They are very good for each other. And you can tell that she doesn't necessarily love him, but she has this admiration for him as a detective. And so I guess that's what's supposed to make the whole like, oh, him admitting that he slept with the bride so painful. But even she's kind of like, wait, really? That's what you've been like carrying around all this guilt for? I feel like there's worse things that you could have done here.
Yeah.
So there's that. And I do find it funny how, ironically, the only character who is not fawning over certain of the characters, but the other characters are kind of all fawning over, is Jake Gyllenhaal, who, again, is also barely in the movie at all.
No,
you know?
He's barely in the movie. And I just love the fact that they also paired him with Julianne Hough, of all people.
Oh, that was Julianne Hough. Oh my God, that's right.
I didn't know it was like her until like a week ago. She started posting about it with all the rehearsals she was doing with Jake Gyllenhaal. And I was like, what do you mean they casted Julianne Hough as a Dancing with the Stars fan?
You know what's so funny about that? I thought watching that was Meredith Hagner, who was in all the, you know, who was in Bad Monkey and who was in all the Bill Lawrence stuff. That's why I thought it was. I couldn't get a close enough look at her because they never. Honestly,
and I'm not a fan of Julianne Hough's acting.
Yeah.
Wasn't
she the lead in that Rock of Ages movie with Tom Cruise?
Yes.
Oh, God,
and then she was in Safe Haven with Josh Duhamel, whatever you want to call it, Jamel. And then she was in Dirty Grandpa with Zac Efron. The list goes on and on and on. And I'm just like, I was like so fascinated. I was like, what? Where did this casting come from?
Right there.
Yep. So, but she's good in the dancing, and that's all they needed her for. But
again, she is a trained dancer. There is that. So,
yes.
And I want to talk about Bale for a second too, because man, I love Christian Bale. He's one of my favorite actors. You know, I will always have an admiration and an adoration of him, both because he is my Batman. He was my like live action cinematic Batman growing up. I assume you as well. And obviously those Christopher Nolan Batman movies being what they are. And the fact, you know, I actually just watched his first, I believe, his debut feature performance, Empire of the Sun, Steven Spielberg movie. Phenomenal movie, and like showing that like he had the goods like at 12 years old or however old he was in that movie. And again, I have said this before, he is one of only 5 male actors that I know that truly transforms himself for every single performance that he gives and never gives the same performance twice. Thankfully, he's past the point now where he is no longer gaining or losing massive amounts of weight and threatening his own health in order to give performances like for movies like The Machinist and Vice. Thankfully, he's not doing that anymore. But I do appreciate how even at this point, this late in his career, he is still so willing to transform himself. And man, like between the physical makeup, you know, which I will say the one detraction that I have for the Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein is that he doesn't maintain the traditional Boris Karloff, you know, kind of look from the black and white, you know, with the makeup and the kind of the square head and the voltage, versus in this one, Bale very much, you know, with the makeup job that they did for him, very much is, and Buckley as well with her performance as the bride, is very much embodying the kind of, you know, traditionalist look of the monster, you know, Frankenstein's monster, if you will. And I love that too. They already give him so much character. They imbue him with, they establish that he has been alive for over a century. He's learned to speak and interact with people very fluently, but obviously people are so frightened by his appearance, so he often goes about in disguise. He's learned like kind of impulse control, you know, from watching these movies. You know, he literally is, you know, it is interesting because they posit him at first as like a groper type, but then he literally says like, I've never been with a woman. And like the way that they kind of like not reduce him to like a little boy, but they kind of really introduce this kind of innocence, this naivete in his character. They infuse him with so much empathy for that character. And then he just devolves into just a one-note walking like, I love you, the bride, I will do anything for you kind of thing.
Yes.
And it really, really kills me because you're right. Like the first half of this movie, they're cooking with some gas. They got something really interesting that they're doing here. And then the second half, it just becomes, we're just mindlessly screaming and running from the cops. And
like the traditional, like what they did with Bonnie and Clyde. And to be fair, I want to bring up the costume design and knowing you brought up the makeup and stuff. It's interesting that they like acknowledge like the old school Frankenstein, but also incorporate Bonnie and Clyde.
Right.
You know, costume makeup design too, especially in the dress that Jessie Buckley wears, because that's giving Faye Dunaway vibes, and so is Christian Bale, especially when he flips the the coat that we see at the gala. I was like, oh my god, this is like Bonnie and Clyde, but like in monster form, which was really cool. And I give a lot of credit to Sandy Powell, the great Sandy Powell, who done wonderful costumes for so many movies. So Sandy Powell understood the assignment. So I will give, Maggie Gyllenhaal for that. But one thing I really want to bring up with you is the score really quickly.
Well, I mean, and as if the Joker 2 comparison couldn't make themselves more apparent. It's not only the same composer, Hildegard Knudsen, who does the music, but the same cinematographer, Lauren Scher. So like, they were really, really trying to go for an up for their loss.
And the crazy thing is, when I was looking into this movie, Johnny Greenwood of Radiohead was supposed to be
Walt Thomas Anderson's Johnny Greenwood?
And look it up. It's on there, Radiohead, and it says it, and it was like replaced by him. So he was supposed to be the composer, but then he left. It didn't say, so I have a feeling it is because of the creative differences that they did with the movie after it was changed. And I feel just Hildegard just went through her files and was like, what do I have that I didn't get to use in Joker 2? She was like looking through her files and she said, all right, this will go here, but it doesn't stand out like Joker does, in my opinion, because that, it's Joker immediately when you hear that sound.
Exactly.
This one, when I think of the bride, I'm just gonna be like, I just think of the Florence and the Machine song that was used in the trailer, which I wish they used in the movie.
And it's funny because there were a couple of points where like the score was turning into like almost like rock opera, if you will. And I'm like, yes, go with that. And then again, like so many other interesting things that this movie brings up, it just like they just leave it behind ultimately,
Yeah, and I was just, and also is also an interesting choice that they also use Monster Mash to close out the movie.
Right.
Like there were some interesting song choices here, music choices here, and I think not all of them worked, but some of them did. Like I thought it was like really interesting that they used Monster Mash. Like I was like, okay.
So
but you see that with Johnny?
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah. So this is like kind of, again, my biggest kind of flaw criticism with the movie, because all of that stuff that we said obviously is kind of standard fare. But my biggest issue was with the fact that, okay, they introduced this awesome narrative device, this idea that like Mary Shelley is basically, all of her aggravations that she had against men in her lifetime are very much influencing her to literally come back from the dead and influence, these and kind of, these scorned female figures, but there's this interesting point of like, again, is her rage, her need for kind of, vengeance, if you will, ultimately going to, again, in a way, pull a promising young woman, where it's like, oh, that need for revenge is going to overtake any chance and kind of, rob this poor woman of, whatever life that she has ultimately. And that's a really interesting, character struggle that's introduced, where you have, again, this massive conflict that's introduced between Mary Shelley and, again, Buckley, again, proving that she is an extraordinary actress with the duality that she brings to both of those characters in one person as well, where you have the Mary Shelley possession spirit, if you will, which is basically the living personification of hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. And then you have the Ida character, the body, the vessel that she's possessing, right? When, and also, again, the fact that the vessel was possessed before the death as well, before she's brought back to life. And you have that kind of narrative kind of underlying the whole thing. And then they kind of do nothing with it. There's no payoff. Okay, Frank gets shot, then she gets shot, and then they both end up, Penelope Cruz basically allows Euphronius to bring them back to life at the end. And that's it. That's all that we go. Just like, I want to know, like, kind of, I want to figure out, like, what the purpose of that narrative was and figure out, like, what the payoff was going to be originally, especially given that, Especially given that, Frank ultimately ends up dying for her,
Mhm.
before, he gets shot in the head before they bring him back to life. So I'm just like, that I think is kind of the source of my frustration, is not that they were going to go with kind of, typical traditional dialogue and characterization choices that were very characteristic during the Biden era, but more so the fact that they had something interesting that they could have gone with and then ultimately chose not to, whether it was because of the test screenings or whether it was just they deliberately chose not to examine it, and that was just going to be an underlying plot device. Like, that's kind of what I can't wrap my head around, what's bugging me the most about this.
No, I agree with that. But I want to piggyback off of that into, because we were texting and stuff. But it was interesting to see how more feminist this movie is, because you can define this movie actually as a feminist piece, and seeing how it explores the female rage in the current climate. Even when we go back to a couple years ago when we were doing the Me Too movement.
Right.
So I just wanted to acknowledge that, because this movie also explores consent, I wanted to say.
Yes.
So
very much so. But again, when you have the movie literally saying "Me Too" and having her repeat it over and over again as a line of dialogue that is supposed to be, oh, get it, the subtext is the text. That's what I'm just like, oh. Like,
yeah,
that's what I instinctively groan.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people, feel like, at least the audience will get like, oh, a little annoyed by,
Well, and you know what it is? My annoyance is not even that they bring it up. My annoyance is that they don't follow through with it. At least to my perspective, it's like the whole thing is, again, if she's gonna be hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, and she's gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna kill like every man that has ever wronged me, do that, But instead, they end up doing this whole Bonnie and Clyde-esque adventure where, oh, they're in love, but like, and then she's like, oh, I don't need a man, but then he dies in front of her. So she's like, it's just like, it's not.
She can't wrap her head around what she wants. And it's definitely a character that's very indecisive of what she wants. Because...
Right. But I guess kind of my issue is that it's a have your cake and eat it too movie, where it's trying to both say that she's indecisive while also being like, oh no, she's also like on this rampaging warpath. And I guess just, I don't know. It's one of those things where, again, there's always going to be people who can make the argument, oh, well, why can't it be both? And I'm not going to have a response to that. But my issue just comes from, it's like, just have a little bit of a cohesive through line.
Yeah.
Just have something. Don't introduce and drop all of these plot points and then pay off none of them,
Yeah, I agree. No, I agree with that. But I will give this movie I was entertained. I did have fun. This is only, like, for me, like a one-time watch. And I'll be like, maybe I'll watch it again. Maybe for, like, the musical side to it, but like I have no desire really to watch this again, which is kind of a shame, because I really thought this was going to have like some form of rewatchability to it, but like it's entertaining. Yeah,
it's fine, it's good, and at the most I'm just going to say that this was an entertaining time. Again, I don't hate the movie at all.
No, I don't hate it either.
Heavily flawed, but I do have to give props to this year, where so far I've only seen one movie that I would classify as being truly, truly bad. Like, bad.
Yeah,
like, I've only no redeeming qualities of it. And that's Primate. That's really it.
I've only seen where I got to at least one theater experience I had this year where I wasn't a fan of the movie was Return to Silent Hill.
Which, I'm sorry, you knew what you were getting with that one.
No, I mean, it looked pretty good, but then all of a sudden I was like, no.
Look, they've been making these Silent Hill movies for almost 20 years now, something like that, and everybody is kind of in on the joke as that. But like, look, like I'm at the point now in my movie watching and reviewing career where I'm like, I know, again, I've seen so many movies, I can recognize the signs. I know when a movie's going to be bad just based off the trailer. Like, I was never going to sit and pay money to watch that awful looking Chris Pratt Mercy movie in a theater. Like, you're not getting me with that bullshit, which was basically like made by AI for AI, because I don't know a single person that would be entertained by that. But like, even the lesser like good movies, I feel like have something. And like Wuthering Heights, say what you will about it, was an enjoyable experience. How to Make a Killing didn't quite work out, but that was entertaining. That was entertaining enough. Like, and I appreciate, because I didn't realize that that's John Patton Ford. That's the Emily the Criminal director. Another movie that like was kind of going for something interesting, but ultimately didn't.
I enjoyed Emily the Criminal too.
Yeah, so like How to Make a Killing was enjoyable. Crime 101 was very obviously heat, but that was still enjoyable. Like, I haven't been like crazily disappointed by a movie, and then the absolute baffling absurdity of Coppers last week, which Oh man,
I
have you
mean,
seen
I
that yet?
haven't. No, I was gonna
Oh
see it, but then I ended up not going. But I have so many other movies I want to see. I think like so far this year, I've enjoyed a good amount of movies, like Josephine, which I saw through Sundance, and
Yeah,
which is excellent, and I think is definitely going to get an award season push, and especially for what that has going for, and knowing it starts a serious conversation, especially with how we're dealing with raising children today, and
right.
I'm not sure if you know the details of the event that happens, but I'm
I
hoping
do
more
not, and I
people.
want to know nothing about. I want to go into
Yeah,
this
I'm
movie
hoping
blind.
like other people who have reviewed it do not say what happens.
Right.
But I love 28 Years Later. I love Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. I thought that was excellent. The documentary Andre is an Idiot was excellent. My Father's Shadow was really good, which finally got a wider release. And I enjoyed Cold Storage, that Liam Neeson movie that came
That
out,
looks
which
fun. That looks fun.
it was so fun, and I enjoyed it, and it's a movie that stays fully true to the book.
Nice.
So
Oh,
it's
that's
I
that's,
loved
that's
it.
even better.
And I enjoyed Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die.
That
You
was
know,
fun. That was a lot of fun. Not as great, not as cohesive as I would have liked with the ending, but still, it was a solid, fun, ensemble driven like sci-fi romp. I'm like,
and you're right about Sandhelp. That was also good too. So
yeah.
there's like been some good stuff here, and I've been really happy about. I think the
Yeah.
only film I've been really disappointed by was The Moment, the Charlie XCX movie, and
Even
Wuthering
that one I
Heights.
didn't hate. I didn't hate that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I there was stuff I know that could have been improved at the moment, but as a Charlie fan,
Well, I
I
guess just
think I
my
enjoyed it.
thing with it is the mockumentary style, but the whole thing of it's like, oh, but it's gonna be a mockumentary in more so in the style of like of I'm still here, not like The Office. I appreciated that it went for that, and I appreciated how flippant it was of it's like, yeah, we're gonna make this look like it was actually a part of the Brat tour when people
Yeah.
and we're not gonna like try and hold the audience's hand or like explain that it's
Yeah.
not. I appreciated that a
Yeah.
lot.
And it was funny because I saw The Moment, and then like Nirvana, the band, the show right after.
Right. Oh, that's
So it
funny.
was like
That's
just
really funny.
two
Like
mockumentaries going back and forth.
two totally different ones as well. So before we give our final thoughts and star ratings for The Bride, I did just want to do a quick Oscars check-in with you. I'll be doing my live reaction for to the Oscars next Sunday after the ceremony wraps. But man, who would have seen this award season coming? This is probably the most fun that I have had keeping track of an award ceremony since I think like the pre-Oscar ceremony, because the problem is the last 2 years, 2 years ago, everybody knew that it was going to be Oppenheimer after it like won the first couple of awards. Last year, you had this interesting back and forth where people didn't know if it was going to be a Nora or The Brutalist, but I feel like you also had this weird backlash as well as far as like, oh, how are the Oscars going to go? Why isn't it going to be Dune 2? Because 2024 was a little bit of a weak year coming off of the strike, and then the 2024 Oscars end up being probably the most fun that I've had watching the Oscars like in a minute, just like, watching it like, going to Oscar parties and being part of the community and all that. But this year, man, I don't remember the last time we've had this heavy of a 2-horse race. Probably since I think Moonlight La La Land, really. This is the first time that we've had this since.
Which is crazy, which is like 10 years ago. If you
literally
think
been,
about it.
I can't get over that was 10 years ago. That's insane. But yes, so the fact that, again, it is so much this 2-horse race between Sinners and One Battle After Another, and how even though One Battle After Another has been the dominant player in all of the precursor ceremonies, it is shaping up very much so like the 2016, the 2019, where Sinners, which previously, again, was the underdog, was the little movie that could, won casting at the Golden Globes, has won a couple of crucial critics awards, and then went on to win ensemble at SAG, and then Michael B. Jordan wins Best Actor.
Which is crazy. And
yeah.
And I said it like when I was making my predictions at the SAGs for at least the casting part for the big award of the night. That was the second time a Ryan Coogler movie has won for that category because of Black Panther. And I made it clear. It just shows that Ryan Coogler is very smart and very strategic with his casting. And I think we could see that play out really strongly here because we have that new acting category.
Yes.
So I think it's going to go to that, even though I do think, One Battle After Another has a strong chance, but I think the creativity and the casting in Sinners is just worthy of that award.
It's funny. I was literally talking about this with Mac and Rod yesterday. We were doing our Oscars redraft stream, which was a lot of fun. I highly recommend you check that episode out. But especially because I said something so crazy that like I had Rod dying throughout the whole episode.
Oh no.
But, what's it called? But essentially what it comes down to is I'm like, I have Sinners taking picture, actor, cinematography, score, casting, right? Possibly supporting actress, but I'm still going with Amy Madigan on that. But it's either Amy Madigan or Wunmi Mosaku for that. And I have one battle after another taking director for Paul Thomas Anderson, supporting actor for Sean Penn, and then editing. And then obviously Sinners and One Battle will both get original and adapted screenplay respectively. Right now.
I have a feeling now that as I'm shifting, because like we did our Oscar episode and I said one battle after another, but now I'm starting to rethink. I think Sinners has a really strong chance now at this point.
Really do.
And I just think that we'll see Paul Thomas Anderson win Best Director because, I feel like, when you see certain people at the Oscars, it's like you're giving the award that's worthy for all they've done throughout the years.
I've said it before. I'm going to keep saying it until the day I die. Oscars are politics. It is all about the narrative. And the narrative, again, is that because One Battle was such the massive, overwhelming, everybody assumed that it'd be like, oh, it's finally long past time. Paul Thomas Anderson, this long time, well-known director who's never gotten his just desserts. He came so close in 2007 with There Will Be Blood and then got beat out by the Coens. That was the narrative going into the ceremony. And again, he's still going to win director for sure. But at this point, that's going to be his consolation prize because Sinners has been the little movie that has been slowly
and you can definitely say that because we had that years ago with Jane Champion. I could be wrong. She won. Didn't she win?
Yes. She won director. Exactly. Powerhouse going in. Yep.
And then Coda ended up winning. Yep. So I have a feeling that was like, her consolation prize because Coda is a better movie. I love Coda. And I love Power of the Dog too, but Coda hands down anytime, any day.
Yeah, exactly. And Coda again, little tiny movie, premiered at Sundance. Coda in a weird way kind of followed the Train Dreams trajectory where it was this little tiny movie, premiered at Sundance in 2021. Everybody loved it. Apple picks it up, gives it a big promotional boost. And it just, again, becomes a little movie that could, because again, it's a movie. It's funny because again, Sean Fennessy was talking about this. It's a movie that just made you feel good. And coming out of both of those movies, again, One Battle is this crazy, insane, nonstop adventure with all of these, with all of these very obvious, political messages about what's going on in our time. But Sinners, man, there was a feeling that came out of that movie.
It was a feeling where cinema was back, and I feel like we're going to see that now going back at the Oscars where people just want to award.
Though I will say it's more so just that, again, Ryan Coogler, who has been this director that we have been following. I feel like all of us, specifically, younger millennials and Gen Z, have been following since he had that breakout with Fruitvale. The fact that, he reinvigorated the Rocky franchise. He gave us Black Panther, which kind of has become this like very important staple of the MCU. The fact that he pulled off that deal that he did for Sinners, the fact that Sinners was such this massive success off of, given that it was kind of, I talked about this yesterday, honestly, with Mac and Rod, the fact that it was this awesome combination of paying homage to genre history, paying homage to Hollywood history, while also kind of being from the perspective and about a specific sect of the populace that has been traditionally very, very underserved. Also, the narrative of kind of the blues music and the intersection and the intersectionality between that and the cultural aspects that were going on at that time in the Mississippi Delta. It just felt like this massive, it really was this massive moment ultimately. And the fact that, again, it's an original movie with no prior basis on IP. Again, Oppenheimer, say what you will, it's based on a book about a real life person. Sinners, even though, again, it has allusions to previous existing movies, it is completely a thing in and of itself. It is completely and wholly unique and original in all the best ways that you want. And again, talking about it, again, if I had to pick one scene, one sequence, it wouldn't be something from the movie, which again, it wouldn't be the surrealist rock sequence, I think dream rock sequence is what they've called it, the sequence in the middle where Sammy's playing the guitar and summoning all the ancestors for the past and the future. It's the post-credit scene with Buddy Guy, where Michael B. Jordan and Haley Steinfeld come back, and you have this insane 360 degrees like reaction to being like, oh fuck, they survived, oh no, like you see the PTSD look come over Buddy Guy's face and he becomes young Sammy again, to the immediate relief / sadness that comes from it's like, oh, he's dying. They came to say goodbye. Like, it's just like, oh, you got all of that one scene. And it's not, it kills me that it's not part of the movie. And I'm just like, yeah, this is going to win Best Picture. This has to win Best Picture. Like, it has
It's
to.
the strongest movie, at least in my opinion, because I'm going to put like my ranking video out soon. And it's definitely one of the strongest candidates that's in there. It's like, I gave like Hamden an A+. I gave One Battle After Another. Like, I didn't review it, but to me, it's A+ worthy. Like, you know, at least in my opinion. So was Marty Supreme, but now we're seeing all that stuff. Like,
yeah, but again, Timmy kind of Timmy's Timmying kind of shot that movie and derailed the trajectory. I still love that movie. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough what's happened. And let me tell you something. The article that resurfaced that came out in 2023, that was the reason for the Safdie split as far as what happened on Good Times.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah.
Not good, to say the least.
And it's sad because I love Good Time too. And now I just look at it on my shelf and I go, that's a sore subject now.
It really is. It really, really is. But anyway, so now that we've gotten our Oscars talk out of the way, we are just about to wrap it up. What are your final thoughts and star rating for The Bride?
So The Bride, I'm going to give it like 3 stars. I gave it my grade for the film like a B-, because like there is stuff to enjoy about this movie. There is plenty of stuff to enjoy, but are there flaws in this movie like what we discussed? Yeah, but I think it's still worthy at least the price of it. If you wanted to see it for a matinee, don't pay the high IMAX. In my opinion, I thought it was good in IMAX, but I think I could have settled just for a standard format screening, and I think I would have gotten the same reaction. So,
yeah, same. Ultimately, it's a movie that ultimately it cannot present a good enough through line that represents the sum of its parts. It's a lot of really interesting and fun stuff, and it's certainly a fun time of a movie. But I can't necessarily say that the narrative works for me entirely. I gave this movie 3 out of 5 stars. I've been like kind of really trying to be like more, I guess, like fair and I guess, you know, critical, if you will. And despite the fact that I've enjoyed the vast majority of the movies, I haven't given out a whole lot of 4 and 4.5 stars. I think I've only given that out to Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die, and Send Help. I think are the only ones that and 28 and Bone Temple. That was good. But yeah, this is a 3 out of 5 star movie for me. Good performances, really fun subject matter, really fun time. You'll have a good time. I can't not say that. But overall, just kind of a nothing burger movie, unfortunately.
But I'm happy I saw it. I will always give. I was very happy I saw it. I don't think if I saw this at home, I don't think I would have had the same effect in the movie. Like I think if I saw this at home, I think I would have hated it. But at least seeing it in theater, it made sense for the views that I have. Yeah. But yeah, it was fun.
Very much so.
It was fun for the most part.
Fun time. Yeah, not a good movie, but a fun time, you know? And you know what? We're allowed to have that. It's okay to have that. That's the beauty of cinema. Not everything has to be perfect and a masterpiece. We can still enjoy, you know, a little mess here every once in a while. So just to clue you guys in on some housekeeping. So next week, we will be doing our Oscars post-ceremony reaction. Then the week after that is Project Hail Mary and The Immortal Man. And then the week after that, I don't know if we're going to do a movie review for that final weekend of March because there's not too much. There's going to be a lot of TV that's dropping that final weekend because you got the first of the 2 Duffer Brothers produced miniseries that are dropping on Netflix. Something very bad is going to happen. Drops that weekend. You've also got the return of Apple TV Plus's For All Mankind is also that weekend. So I might just do like a TV check-in that weekend with Luke. Obviously, also Luke and I are still going strong with our Lost reactions. We just did Ji-Yun earlier today. And we've got Me, Kevin Johnson, The Shape of Things to Come, and Something Nice Back Home going for the rest of March. And then also stay tuned because Luke, me and Franchise Addicts Luke are going to be wrapping up our Paul Thomas Anderson rewatch series. We've got One Battle After Another coming this week, and then we're going to be wrapping it the month of March with the 3 masterpieces, Phantom Thread, The Master, and wrapping the month and the series with There Will Be Blood. So make sure you guys stay tuned to all of that, and make sure you guys stay tuned for my little scheduling updates that I put out every week in order to clue you guys in as far as what we have coming up for the month. I just released my one for March, and then I'll be releasing my one for April sometime in the next couple of weeks. Kristen, thank you so much for coming back on and reviewing. I'll get to that in a little bit. But Kristen, thank you so much for coming back on and helping to review this with me. Where can the good people follow you on the interwebs?
They can follow me. Sorry. My husband's crawling on the floor so he doesn't ruin the shot. Sorry.
Hilarious.
Okay, sorry. I just
That's
got immediately
perfect.
distracted. Okay.
That's so funny. Oh, that's great. I can just imagine the visual of just Dylan crawling across the floor. Oh, that's
Sorry,
so
my
funny.
parents are coming over to visit, so he's getting the door. Sorry, I got very distracted. But you can follow me at Miss Flamingo on all social media. I'm always posting reviews. I am also the co-host of the M&K Productions podcast, as you mentioned, Mac, good friend, with you and I, but we're doing all sorts of fun episodes. We just did our Oscar episode, which was a lot of fun to talk about. We had our good friend Jackie K. Cooper on and Ryan Yester, who is the founder of Topo. So give that a download. You can make your Oscar predictions on that. It's a really fun app, just shouting that out. But yeah, follow me on there too, because I'm also on there as well. So
yes.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Dom. I can't wait to come back and talk about Project Hail Mary because I'm just starting reading the book and I am ready to discuss that movie. And I'm seeing it early, which makes me really excited.
Oh, you're seeing it early too? Yes, I'm seeing it early too. I'm seeing it next Saturday. I'm going to try and see it twice.
You're seeing it? Oh, that Saturday? I'm seeing it that Monday with Amazon. So I got those tickets.
Nice. Oh, you're on to the Amazon screening. Yeah, I'm doing the Saturday screening at the
see that one. I wanted that. Yeah. I was like, they kind of start expanding these locations more when they do.
It's funny. I was looking through it. I'm like, oh no, are they all going to be sold out? I was looking, all the AMCs were sold out. Then I saw Regal Union Square had some seats left. I'm like, fuck it, I'm doing it. I'm like, it's not 9X, but I'll do it in 70
just like look up at Ryan.
I'm like, I'll do it. I'm in. I'm not missing this.
Fortunately, they don't have enough locations.
Don't worry. Netflix is building a new studio in New Jersey.
Yeah,
so
I don't know.
Maybe that'll
they put in a theater. I mean, why not? So
yeah, we'll see. Anyways, you guys can follow me with everything going on at Movie Nerd Reviews across all platforms, at Official Talking TV Podcast across all platforms. Be sure to like and subscribe this video if you're watching on YouTube and if you're listening to us on Spotify. And as always, people, 12 seasons in a short film. And watch more fucking movies. We'll see you guys next time.